Action is dead in college admissions, making race-based decisions at universities a thing of the past. I'm Rosemarie Miller here with Shaun Harper, a Provost Professor at the University of Southern California, where he heads up the Race and Equity Center. Thank you so much for joining me today, Shaun.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, I read in a piece you wrote, you had some predictions in response to the affirmative action ruling. Could you just briefly run through some of those?
Sure, but let me first say that I would love to be wrong about each of these predictions. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but I would love to be wrong. The first is that we're going to see a dramatic decline in the enrollment of Black students at highly selective public and private institutions. To be sure, all students of color, including Asian and Asian American and Pacific Islander students, will be negatively impacted by the SCOTUS ruling. All students of color. But the ruling is going to have the most devastating impact on Black students. Why would I say this? Well, because there were 10 states that banned affirmative action years ahead of the affirmative action ruling. My state, California, is one of them through a 1996 ballot measure, Prop 209. Conscious admissions practices were struck down, throughout the University of California system and all of the other public higher ed systems and institutions here in California. What we saw exactly a decade after the elimination of race-based admissions at the University of California, Los Angeles, there were 96 Black first-year students in an incoming class of more than 4,700 new students. 96. And I'd be remiss if I did not note that a sizable portion of those 96 students were student athletes. We've seen a similar kind of trend in the decline of Black students in other states across the country where affirmative action bans have been enacted. That's just one of the many predictions that I offered in the article.
So, what could colleges and universities do? I mean, we've seen affirmative action and now it's dead. There had to be some pros and some cons within it. What did we learn from it?
Well, what we learned was that many institutions were indeed relying on affirmative action as a bit of a crutch, if we're being honest. They were not really experimenting with and exploring and ultimately enacting an expansive range of methods to recruit racially and ethnically diverse students. So I think that one of the benefits at this point, now that we're in this post affirmative action era, is that it's requiring colleges and universities to actually start thinking much more complexly, much more creatively, much more expansively about what they can do that falls within the legal parameters that the Supreme Court has set. But just a new set of approaches to recruiting students of color. Let me just say quickly that as I travel the country, giving speeches and presentations and things at universities, I often will spend time with Black undergraduate students, given my research. Ahead of my talk or right after, I'd be in a circle with dozens, sometimes even hundreds of Black students. But I'll have them go around and introduce themselves. One of the things that became so clear to me, I don't know, like 15 years ago, that on campus after campus, almost all of those Black students were from the same 5 places. So it really signaled to me that, admissions officers and recruiters were relying on the same supplier high schools and in the same cities to recruit Black students. Look, there are extraordinarily talented Black people everywhere. So I think that now colleges and universities are going to have to be much more deliberate and strategic about finding those Black students and other students of color who are incontestably deserving of admission.